Well, hello students, this is Mr. L. We're going to take a quick look here at what's going on in Language Arts 7A for the week of January 9th. And let's take a look at the calendar assignments. You'll notice if you've been following it since the beginning of the year, this week is pretty much completing 7.4.4 and then on Thursday and Friday 7.4.5, which is the actual unit activity. Now we'll discuss 7.4.4 briefly today because we are looking at it as being a part of those assignments for students who are using the calendar of October 31st. And it's a little hard, this thing likes to go back and forth, but there it is, October 31st calendar. And notice that's on Thursday and Friday of this week. So we're going to take a quick look at 7.4.2, 7.4.3, and 7.4.4. So if you're needing a little help with 7.4.4, it'll be towards the end of this video. So we're going to connect with this and we're going to go through this really quick. So here we are, 7.4.2, identifying purpose in nonfiction. Then we'll look at creating structure in nonfiction and then presenting ideas to an audience, and which would be the last item. So let's take a look at 7.4.2. Now it'll take a second for this to come up, and you may or may not hear some of the verbiage on this tab. So I have a mute tab button that I can use. And I'm going to mute that tab as we look at that. And we're going to take a look at identifying the curriculum. And it'll take a second just to load. So. And notice we're going to look at what's the purpose, evaluating purpose, reading selections. We have a couple, Taming the Bicycle. And then there's a writing lab, and then a little lesson activity. Remember, you can add these items when you are writing within the course itself. Save it as a PDF document, which you should be able to do, or you can copy everything and paste it into a Google document. And you can attach that to your notes if you are so inclined. And it gives us a little idea of, what are you thinking, what are you doing?
Type your response in the box. Think about a nonfiction text that you
think about nonfiction text that you read recently. It could be recipe, essay, news article. What do you think was the purpose of that text? Okay, why? Remember, nonfiction, that's those items that are not made believe. These are basically factual items, items that you would see in a items such as a recipe, or maybe like in a newspaper, in a sports article, or an account of, recently we had a shooting that had occurred in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at an airport, and that was all over the TV this past week. So that account, that would be a nonfiction text. Now, a lot of times the reason for that nonfiction text, the purpose, is because we are trying to inform people of a particular...
What's the purpose?
Okay. So, here we go. Every time there is a purpose, and whenever a person is writing a non-fictional text, you are wanting, that person is wanting you to see their point of view. Okay, so a lot of time persuasion is what is used.
A text purpose also.
Okay. How do they want to connect with you? How do they want to get that information through to you? That's part of this purpose. Okay, now here's a couple different types of topics. Okay, and what would be the purpose for each one? I mean, election results, would that be to persuade you? No, that would be basically to inform you. So were ideas to fix traffic congestion? What do you think?
Purpose in nonfiction texts. Click each thumbnail image.
So In each of these images, it will tell you a little bit more about it, how details are supported. If you would look at to instruct, it would tell you is to provide directions on how to complete a task. Each of these purposes are important. Okay, when you go through this, you'll look at either to express, to entertain, to inform, or to persuade. And this happens every day. It doesn't matter if we're in school or not. Think about it. We throw on television, we're either being entertained or we're being informed, or an advertiser wants to persuade something, or if we're looking like at a documentary, it might be to express a particular point of view. Okay. Now, when we evaluate purposes, okay, what we want to do is see what are some of the common items, or if we have more than one text together, you need to be able to make those comparisons. Okay. Remember, each one of these types, to inform, express, persuade, entertain, instruct, there's a specific purpose that is going on. Okay. If we were looking at a debate team, what do you think are the purposes? And they just had this there. There you go. And this is a little advertisement. So take a look at this, and what do you think is the reason why we would have, what would be the purpose? What would be the reasons for your picking that purpose? Okay, about the debate team, the
analysis.
Okay. And then what happens here is an analysis. It's telling you about different items with the debate team. So the previous page is, what are your ideas? And here it will explain them to you. Okay. And then it'll take a look at the structure of
analysis
that we read that was talking about the debate team. Okay. It identifies the text purpose and examples of, it'll use structure to organize the information. So whenever you're writing about something, you're going to have some type of structure. And what you want to do is, when you're writing, is use graphic organizers. You can use those to help begin where you want to, go with your essay. Remember, you always are going to have, especially if you look at the basic 5-paragraph essay graphic organizer, it has a structure. And that's a good item to use whenever you are working in the class. So let me see if I can get an extra tab here, and let's go into mywirelessclassroom.us. And I'm going to go class downloads. And we're going to take a look down at the bottom. Here is a 5-paragraph essay. Okay. Notice I talk about okay a lot. Anyways, here it is. You have an introduction. What is your thesis? Your body, paragraph 1, 2, and 3, and you have a conclusion down here. That's a basic form. We can add more information to this by saying always the first sentence in your body paragraphs would be your thesis statement. And then sentences 2, 3, 4, whatever are your examples to support your thesis statement for each paragraph. Now you'll have an overall thesis. What is your belief? When you write, you're going to have a belief about something. What is your belief? You state that in the introduction. You review the 3 examples in this case, because you have 3 body paragraphs. You'll review those examples real briefly, and then typically in introduction, you're using your thesis statement as your last line. The first line would be some type of hook to get you in. Conclusion is just the opposite. It's your thesis statement, once again, the review of your 3 examples, and instead of a hook to get you in, it's a statement that helps you ease out of your essay. So that's an idea to think about. Here is structure. Okay, so you're always going to have structure. Okay, then we go
Reading
selection. This is an item by Mark Twain, and he has a lot of great things that he has written, but here's one called Taming.
You should find Twain's essay enjoyable, but it was written more than 100 years ago and includes vocabulary and sentence structures that might be challenging. To get a better handle on the text, read and apply these reading strategies for understanding difficult texts.
Now, what I just did is I paused there for a second so you could read what's on there, but utilize these items like the reading strategies. Open the link in a different tab, and it'll tell you about different bits of information. Okay. Now, a lot of times it will give you strategies that you can use in paper and pencil type setting. So if you'd like, you can always take this article and print it off. And that's a way to use those different strategies. Okay. Now, note also here, it was written more than 100 years ago, and they made a statement of vocabulary and sentence structures might be challenging. This is important because as you grow through your education, you will be coming to a class such as English 12, where you are reading material that was first put down over 1,400 years ago, or close to 1,400 years ago. That's old, and people wrote differently then. And even the language sounds a lot different. You go, this is not English. Oh, yes, it is. That's how we have evolved. So, just to give you a little idea, these are the reasons why we do these things. Okay, so you'll look at these items, and I don't know why that like to drop down. Taming the bicycle. And remember, whenever you do this, and you click submit, it won't go to me, but it will bring you some possible answers. Okay, so utilize it.
Analysis. In taming the bicycle.
Now, the idea here is Twain wanted to persuade readers how to learn to ride a bicycle. Over 100 years ago, we didn't have cars. Well, we just started getting them, about this time 100 years ago. But 125 years ago, cars didn't exist. They were thought of. People were tinkering and trying to create them. But bicycles was one of the methods of transportation. And it was not a popular piece of transportation at the time, but it was getting, a little bit more popular. People still rode horses. We had lots of rural communities. Okay. So he wanted people to know that it's okay to ride a bike. Now, as times have evolved, we had videos that told us how to ride a bike. And here's a video of them reading.
Hello there. I say, you must be here because you read my humorous book.
Okay, the video stopped loading. And we've been having a little issues here and there. So there's a purpose of the video. And how would that be similar to the essay? Okay. So questions for you to take a look at. There's a writing lab that have you utilize not the same, but some of the ideas that you learned in the lesson. And that'll have you working through that. Okay. And once again, here you can print out your responses. And if you're not too sure about your response, click submit, and it will give you a sample answer. And that would be basically the identifying purpose in a nonfiction tutorial. One item that we need to be aware of, though, is when we look at the text. Now, I'm going to briefly give you each, whoops, I showed you the answer key. Here are each of the questions that could possibly be asked of you in the mastery test. My suggestion is that you pause so that you can take a look at these before going into the actual reading. And when you do that, you have an idea of what you need to look for. Remember this little item that we saw within the lesson, the different types of titles? Remember why they are in place. Which audience is best suited for this informational text? So they're telling you information. The advantage of a pencil. But right here, right at the beginning, to learn to draw, you might need the right instruments. Remember what I said when we were looking at this 5-paragraph essay form. And I bring it up real quick. Thesis, first sentence, a lot of times will tell you what you need. It gives you examples after that. When we go all the way back to this, first sentence, what do you think that is? Ooh, what do we have here? Who's the intended audience? It's easy to cook meal. What's the main purpose of an argumentative essay? Someone's having an argument. Think about that. So we'll give you this one. Oops, we'll give you this one here. Whenever we use a recipe, it is basically to instruct others, but I want you to think about that as you go through. Okay. Now, whoops, as we go back here, we're now looking at creating structure in nonfiction. So, get through these. And creating structure. Once again, a quick look at this unit. Takes a second for everything to come up.
Warm up. Type your response.
Once again, you're going to have a warm up to get you going. And then we're going to go into what we're looking at, structures and features. Now, if you think about it, and here is a good picture to help you understand. When you're looking at structures or features, especially structures, it's like a framework of what you're going to do. I always suggest when you are writing is to make little notes or one-sentence statements, and you can start gathering your information and putting it underneath there. You're starting to build a structure. Author's purpose is why the author is writing to you. Remember the last item? To entertain, to inform, to instruct, to persuade, to provide information. And these are different types of structures. Description, chronological order, cause and effect. And these are the different types of Venn diagrams that you can put together. If we go back here into the different Venn diagrams, okay, you can use a cause and effect diagram, a Venn diagram. A chain map is very much like a chronological, because what happens at 8 o'clock, then at 9 o'clock, then at 10 o'clock, and so on. Let's get back to there. Okay.
Here are to additional types of text structures. Problem and solution. This structure describes a problem and offers possible ways to...
Basically what you have is, here's the problem. Notice they use in the steps. This is my idea, this solution. It'll take you do this first, then you do that, then you do that. It's a way to solve a item. A compare and contrast is your Venn diagram. Your basic Venn diagram, you could have what are different in the outsides of your two items, but in the middle, what is the same. And you can use the Venn diagram, or the 3-column T-chart is another chart that you can use for that purpose.
Text features.
Now, different features, and this is when you are reading, what you want to learn about when you are reading are these types of items. If you look at an essay, or like in here, you got these headings, or then you have a smaller heading, or you have pictures. They're all there to help organize information.
Identify signal words and phrases.
And this is a great little item if you want to copy and paste. So you can just do that, hit your Control C, and then in a document, you can, Control V. Gives you signal words and phrases, items that will give you ahead of time different information that can help you. And not only can it help you in understanding or help you in your writing, it also helps you when it comes to reading. It gives you little clues of what's going on. And you'll see a chart like this in a couple of the different reading videos.
Identifying questions to determine.
Now, if you're trying to figure out is it descriptive or chronological order or cause and effect, so on and so forth, here are some questions that you can use. And once again, my suggestion, copy and paste. You can use it not only in this class, but in other classes and in the future. I mean, think about chronological orders. If you're trying to determine in a history class, is this essay written in a chronological order, these questions could help you. Going back here. Now, I talked about it before, graphic organizers. See? And I've been using it before they even mention it here in the class. So we have a reading selection, and I'm going to just pop up ahead. Okay, you're going to analyze your text structure. There's the collecting rocks. You'll continue because you only go part of the way. And then we'll work on our writing again in the selection. And I wanted to make certain that you saw this test ahead of time. Okay, so here are the questions. Remember, you can pause so you can take a deeper look at these questions. The longer ones like that, I'll move up a little bit so you can take a look. So I think we have most of it there. Okay, once again, drag the tiles, match each word or phrase with the text structure that it signals. So remember that chart that I talked about? This is why it's important, because you're going to be asked questions. Similar type of item here. And so you have 10 possible questions you're going to be asked on those mastery tests. I wanted to make certain that you had that information. Now I'm going to pause this for a second. Okay, I just had to do that because I was getting a little dry. And while it was just a quick blip for you, for me it was a little bit longer. It was about a 10-minute pause in the video, the recording of it. And there I had to take another sip because got a little dry mouth there. Okay, we're going to take a look at this last group, presenting ideas to an audience. And note, you have to define your audience, analyze them, and know a little bit about style. And we're going to concentrate on these three things here before the lesson activity, and then I'll go into the test and show you the test again. So here we go. Right again, we start with a warm-up.
Defining audience.
Let's look at our audience. Now, whenever you write, you're writing for a particular group or a person, okay? So when it comes to that, you got to think, who are you specifically writing for? Now, a lot of times you're writing for your teacher. Just because I might be the one you're writing towards, you also have to think about me as an entire group of people. Yeah, you're writing to get a grade in a class, but you could be writing this, or it could be sent by me to a group of people. So just be aware of when you're putting, your thoughts and words on paper. Now remember, tone and word choice and style are also important too. If you talk down or you use words that are really long or big, a person who may be younger than you might not understand those words. So sometimes you got to change your words up a little bit. Remember who that audience is. If they are a group of car fanatics and you're trying to teach them about or tell them about baking a cake, you might have to use metaphors that may combine, the ideas about cars so that they would understand it, if they have no idea that it takes 10, 15 minutes to warm up an oven, that's why you preheat an oven so it gets warm enough so you can bake a cake or bake your cookies. You might have to say to a car fanatic, now, preheating the oven is sort of like when you drive your car. You just don't go from 0 to 60 in 1 second. It takes a few seconds to get there. It takes some time to get to that top speed. Notice what we're doing here is knowing who your audience is. Now you can give them something that will help them to understand. Sort of like what I do with this video for you.
Analyzing audience.
Audience will have all different types of backgrounds. Take a look right here. Take a look at the people that live on your block. They are all not the same. If you live in an apartment building, everyone is different. So what could you do to connect to your neighbors or connect to those people in the apartment building? And let me put it like this. If you say, well, there's no way, I live out in the farm in the middle of rural Minnesota and I don't have a bunch of neighbors. Well, you know what? If you live in a farm out in rural Minnesota and you have animals, not all of your animals are the same. Not all of your animals are cows. You might have a dog, you might have some chickens, you might have goats, pigs, who knows? They all eat differently, but they all eat. Okay, so some things are similar, but some things are different. Think about that when you write.
When analyzing your audience.
Now, does the audience know a lot about the topic? You're going to write differently if they do. If they don't, then you got to provide information that will help them understand. That also informs the questions that you use. These questions here, if you take a look at these two questions, what opinions will the audience likely have on a topic? Are they likely to agree or disagree with your position? Think about that before you even put those words down on a piece of paper. I always suggest if you're writing them down, or even if you're typing them on the computer, you can save a file and you can save as many files as you want on the computer, or if you're writing down, you can write outside the margins. Put information there that helps you to stay on track. What do you think the audience can learn from the presentation? You could put these 3 answers at the top of what you're about to write and then start writing it underneath. And as you write, look back. Am I, my audience knows a lot about this topic. So am I giving them anything new? And that's one way you can look at doing this. Okay. Once again, you're going to have a chance to do some pairs, and you're going to look like at child care costs. So read through these as which ones of these would talk about child care costs. Audience and style, tone, if it's formal or informal, makes a difference. A formal tone sounds like you're going to some very smart guy's presentation, and he sounds really serious, and he doesn't use words that you're normally accustomed to using. Okay. An informal tone is that more casual. It's sort of like formal is like getting dressed up in the suit. Informal is like, hey, I'm throwing on some jeans and a t-shirt. And you probably speak to people differently depending on how you're dressed. Same thing as when we come to our audience. If we want a formal tone, we want people to really see a seriousness there. Once again, here are some questions. Think of which is formal or informal. Now, you're going to notice something on this one. I can put formal, I can put formal. Notice how you can have formal or informal, you can have multiple times. So note that you can do
content and word choice.
Now, word choice and content is very important to consider. Think about how familiar your audience is with your topic. That's going to be very important to you. The word choices, remember I'm talking about the car fanatics and teaching them how to cook? Remember what I did was when I talked about going from 0 to 60 miles per hour, I took something in their thoughts or their ideas that they are familiar with to help explain something that they may not be familiar with. And that is why word choice is very important. Okay, then you get to here and you can, once again, put in your idea, submit it, and I'll give you a sample answer. Now let's take a quick look at the test, and then we'll call it a day on this video. And let's see here, make certain we got the right one, creating structure and non-fiction. Okay, presenting ideas to the audience. We got to get that one up. Okay, so we're going to crash that one. And presenting ideas to an audience, view assignment curriculum. And let's see. And so, table of contents, presenting ideas to an audience. That's not giving me what I want. That's not what we want. So let's get back in there. There we go. And it'll take a second. I just want to make certain you get a check or a look at this assignment, the mastery test, because it is very, very important. And here's a look at the questions. There we go. And she's talking about the Denver Broncos. Okay. Oh, and I gave you the answers, Broncos and its. Okay. Now here you would have, because it's about Broncos, you got to choose the right Broncos. There's different ones. Remember, this is a rough draft too, though. As I said before, pause and take a look. Which one of these would go in these areas? Another, drags. Remember the formal and informal? They could be all 1, or they could be 2 and 2, or 1 and 3. So, which contains a spelling error. When you're writing, you got to always be looking for that. Take time out when you're writing material, set it aside and for 5 or 10 minutes, and then come back to it and look at it again. This time looking for a specific item. It could be, did I capitalize the first letter of each sentence? And just look for that. So a wide variety of different items. Here we go once again, connecting the tiles here to the pairs here. Remember, pause and take a look. So once again, that is the test to take a look at. I hope you are utilizing this to help you get a little bit ahead. If you have any questions, let me know and we can answer those for you. So until next time, hope you're having a great day. And remember, utilizing these notes on the screencast is a way to help you work smarter, not harder. Until next time, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.